tonight is a workshop, and I'm sure President Roddy will talk about that, but this is mostly to talk about our options going forward, but no formal decisions will be made tonight because it's not an actual meeting. It's just a workshop. But thank you all for coming.
Thank you. So Dr. Maloney's correct. Just so everyone's clear, especially the students in the room, we cannot vote on anything tonight because it is not an official meeting. We do want it to be a very interactive meeting. When Dr. Maloney talked about a contingency budget, just so everyone understands, I know there was a petition to try and go back at the same budget we had. And, you know, I want to say that almost 60% of us voted for that budget. And only in a state like New York would that not win. You know, that just is what it is. But to put it back out there and lose would be, as Angelina said, it'd be catastrophic. It would mean all the things that we talked about cutting would absolutely be cut. More than likely interscholastic sports would be cut because that's a big number. And even after that, there'd probably be cuts to teachers with larger class sizes. And again, we're going to discuss all of this tonight, and we want your input. I just want to, you know, start the conversation by saying, if the board were to decide that and we didn't win, it could be catastrophic. I've been on the board for 13 years, and we look back at records. There are somewhere around 400 people who vote every budget no. That's just a given. You know, it's unfortunate. I don't know who those people are. Some of you may be in the room, but we do know we're starting minus 400. So I guess, you know, I thank you to everyone that did email us today and yesterday. We as a board have hoped for interaction and transparency. A lot of you don't come to a lot of board meetings, but you should know you're welcome at every board meeting. Every board meeting does have time for public comment, where oftentimes we cannot answer a question, but we do take everything under advisement. And sometimes we can answer your question. But the point is that if you have a question, please bring it to us, or please continue to email that Board of Education email, because we look at them and people will respond to them. Maybe not to every individual email, but we received, I think, 7 emails. Of those 7, I believe 5 were strongly supportive of pre-K. So I guess why don't we open it up? You all came, and I imagine a lot of you have something to say before we start discussions. I'm not sure the best way, if you want, yes, please go ahead.
Do I need to tell you my name, my address, all of that, like a normal board meeting?
I mean, name would be excellent.
My name is Carol Rosbazum. I live on off of Plank Road. I live on Woodview Road here in the town of. My only suggestion is I was in very favor of the budget. I know that the 5.9% was very leery of everybody. Whenever you decide your budget, can we please start a public education campaign as soon as possible? I think that's kind of where we failed as a community. We were trying to have conversations and we were trying to discuss it effectively across the board, but I feel so many people didn't get that notice until the day of budget, and they were confused, or they weren't registered to vote, or there was all these other things. So I'm pleading with everybody in this room, please have a better public education campaign with anything that you're putting out. No, don't just do social media. I know that's what we always kind of lean to, but I'm not sure what else we can do. But we just need to educate better, because I believe if we educate better, we're going to have that turnout and support. Everybody in this room, most of the people in the room that I personally know, wants the school to be successful. We're only trying to support that success in this room. So thank you.
Thank you.
Carol, I just wanted to add something to that. I obviously live in the district. I didn't get my own mailer about the budget until the 21st, which was obviously the day after the vote. There is a legal. I don't know if legal is the right word. We are
Yes.
only allowed to send that notice out on a specific day. It went out that day. It was the 9th of May. That was a USPS problem, not a district problem. I know the mailer is not all you're referring to. I just wanted to add to that conversation that I know a lot of people were saying, I didn't get it till the day of or the day before. It wasn't for lack of effort. They went out the day that they possibly could without us breaking our own laws on what we were able to send. And so a lot of people didn't get that information the same way that they have in previous years where they had time to ask questions, come to meetings, have some input.
We're going to be in that same predicament again.
Well, and
Because you can't send out another newsletter until after another budget hearing.
so, and we did speak briefly about that earlier. We plan to have the budget hearing next Thursday. So that mailer will probably go out that following Monday because obviously they need time to prepare it. But we thank you for the comment because we all are very aware of that.
Are you allowed to send anything home with the kids?
I don't know. I'm honestly not sure. I'd have to
It's a
look
great
into that.
question and we will find out. And if we can, we will. I don't think we can encourage people to vote either way though. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Brenda Rafferty. I live in Pittstown on Johnsonville Road. To piggyback on what Carol said, before my daughter started coming to Tamarack, I got the flyers, yeah, I never knew the importance of these programs until my child started attending here. The basic fundamentals she learned from these programs. She didn't need pre-K, but I mean, starting in kindergarten, I mean, the music, the kickball, I am a firm believer that children learn through play. And I never knew the importance. So if maybe there's a way we can get this out there to people that possibly don't have children in school yet, or their kids are out of school or whatever, the importance of these programs for their fundamental enrichment. So I don't know if there's something that we can work on to get the importance of it out.
Thank you.
Casey Snyder, I live on Town Office Road. Thinking back on what this woman had said, my parents went to vote, they pay school taxes in Brunswick and Grafton. They didn't know that they had to change their voting status when they moved here, but so they couldn't vote, unfortunately. But one of the women that was volunteering grew up with my mom, and she said that at the end of the day, they had to turn away a lot of people who were not even on the list. So from what I've heard, there was like a 16-person discrepancy. If we had 16 more votes, we could have passed it. That could have been the 16 people that were turned away. So I think the education on making sure you are registered to vote. And to be honest, I moved here 5 years ago, and I didn't even know I had to register. I mean, I happened to be registered, thank God, but I didn't know I had to do all the paperwork and do all that to change school district. It's just not something I was aware of. So the education component of people verifying that they are in fact registered to vote in this town, to be on that list, because like I said, she said there was quite a few people they had to turn away throughout the day that were on the list and they thought they would be to vote. So I thought that really stuck.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm Piper, and I kind of just wanted to put out there that if we're going to be getting rid of Tamarack Select Choir Middle School and then music and stuff like that, a lot of people care about that, and I feel like it's going to be a loss for a lot of people.
We do too. Sir?
Hi, my name is James. I'm a freshman. I wanted to ask if it was possible that we could convince teachers to teach their students more about the positive and negative effects of the budget voting, so that way they can have more of an understanding and the people they inform about it can have more of an understanding about the vote and the potential effects it can have on Tamarack.
Let me think about that one, James.
Can I just say, Mr. Olson teaches seniors social studies. He makes all his students attend a board meeting and ask a valuable question. Otherwise, they have to write an essay, a 7-page essay, I believe. So it does happen, but maybe not as early as you might like, but it is encouraged. It is almost like a requirement when you get to 12th grade.
I'm Monica Allen. I live on 17 Line Drive. I'm a third grade teacher in the district and I'm a parent of 2 kids. First of all, I just want to thank the board. I know there's a lot of really hard decisions to be made and a lot of work was put into the budget that we made in the first place. I'd also like to thank the community, everybody that came out for the community night, the night of the vote. The art show was phenomenal. There was a sense of pride in both buildings that I feel like I've never really felt before in this district. So thank you all for coming. Just from my own personal perspective and our family's experiences, I just want to voice my overwhelming support for the SRO and for the pre-K program. Both being a teacher in the district and a parent, both of those have really done a lot for our family personally. So thanks.
Thank you.
My name's Kim Jensen. I don't have a child in the district. I live on Roberts Drive. And I know that you guys have a lot of hard decisions to make, but I do want to just voice support for putting up the same budget because I do think that there's a lot of valuable programs there that I would like to see continue in the community. I don't plan on having children, but it is important to me that our kids get what they need and that our families get what they need. So I just wanted to give you that support.
Thank you.
Can I just mention one thing?
Of course.
There is a little bit of support in, I want to say, the New York Assembly, but don't quote me on that, for funding SROs, which I think is important for the public to know because I do think that's really where you can have your impact more widely than even Tamarack. The SRO is absolutely wonderful. I agree with you, Monica, invaluable. He was here with us last night till 6:30, taking care of a situation. He's excellent. The program's excellent. But it's a big item ticket, big money ticket wise. So I've been hugely advocating for the government. It's a form of community policing as far as I'm concerned, and I think there should be a cost share for it. I did write to Senator Jake Ashby today, and I shared with him that our budget went down and that there's many losses, but this is one of those ones, and I believe he's a big supporter of law enforcement, so I thought I would take that opportunity. I'm not sure if that'll go anywhere, but I felt like I had to. I do know I got a copy of a letter from a senior who wrote to our governor today and very much explained the same thing. She went to the CTE program for criminal justice and wrote about the importance of the SRO. So kids like James and Piper are stepping up to do their part. And I think after all this is said and done, that is the big lesson, the takeaway. The civic engagement is critically important.
So, and to follow up on that, if you go on the internet and go to the New York Assembly, you can click and write Jake Ashby an email and tell him you were at this meeting tonight and tell him that he needs to get us that money for the SRO. If he gets one email from Angelina, he's going to be like, all right, yeah. If he gets 50 emails,
It was nicely worded.
I'm sure it was better than mine will be. But if he gets 50 emails, he's got to stop and think because ultimately those guys care about one thing. And I'm sorry to say this, it's not our kids, it's their jobs. So it was a great suggestion. I think we should all do that.
The other thing I will add, and it's something that we're working on, some things, and Mrs. Fanning could speak to this a little bit more, but some of our expenses are state aided, which means although we pay them this year, we get revenue on them the next year. So sometimes things aren't equal in terms of spending $100 on this versus $100 on this, because sometimes you can get aid back on them. One of our big complaints is that we're not able to utilize a COSER to pay for our SRO and get aid back on it. So that's one of the challenges that we're facing. So again, there's some legislative push for that because that changes kind of the expense. It would be an expense that year, but you would get a certain percentage of that money back the next year. And that's something that hopefully at some point, if it's not funded by the government, that we would at least have that as an option.
Yes, Piper.
Going back to the SRO thing, I feel like he's been a big step in a lot of kids' lives. I know whenever I'm having trouble on social media, like cyberbullying and stuff like that, I'll go to him because I feel safe.
Well, we hope we can get him back. So you had a question?
If this goes to a modified vote and that gets rejected, that goes to a contingency vote
Correct.
as well. Okay.
If any vote that we put out on June 17th gets voted down, we're worst case scenario.
And then secondly, does the vote have to be taking place here?
The vote,
Like in this building?
Yeah, at this location. I don't know, was that a decent turnout that we got? I don't know.
This is- It's the highest, it was 900 and,
Second to the COVID budget vote.
yeah, it was pretty high. One of the reasons we've not put it in the elementary school in the past is because there's school during the day. And people have to enter the building, at least in the secondary school, we can kind of isolate the public and just keep it separate from the kids. But I don't think there's a requirement to have it one place or the other. I think I just have to register with the Board of Elections. I
But
think.
on campus.
Does it have to be in the building?
Like, does it make more sense?
Could it
to
be at
do
the firehouse?
Brunswick, or
Honestly, I'm not sure. I'd have to check. I've never explored that question. I can find out, but.
if it was a decent turnout, then maybe that's.
And the thing with the vote too is if we put the same budget back out that goes over the tax cap, that one still has to have the 60% supermajority, but a modified one that does not go over this tax cap would need a 50% majority, correct?
50 plus one, yeah.
Correct.
What is the tax cap?
3.55. Is that, you were asking what the number is, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Jack, could you kind of explain our logic and how we formulated the budget?
Sure.
So what we did, and I know, Lori, we talked to the PTSA about this, but we took everything that was essentially things that we thought we could cut and then still sustain the program, right? So we made those cuts, and then we ended up with a list of things that make us all sad to think of losing. So we said, all right, we can't close our budget gap with any more cuts anywhere else. So we're going to go above the tax cap, keep all these programs in. And if that passes, all these programs stay. The challenge we have as Jenna or Tammy, just Jenna, whoever, said, is that if we do go out with anything above the tax cap, even if you say, well, maybe not everything, maybe we'd go with 4% so we can keep the SRO, I'm making things up. It still needs that 60%. If either of those votes pass, the contingency budget is an additional $450,000 roughly that we would have to close. 535? All right, 535, worse.
And there's other conditions of it.
Correct.
Other like the Little League, Girl Scouts, 4-H, all those programs would not be able to use our buildings free of charge like we've normally done. So there's other things on top of just the financial piece that would be very burdensome.
And you have to realize too, when we just had this vote, you had all these activities on the school campus. You're not gonna have that. And there were still people on this campus that, well, because we could look at the numbers of who voted. There's people that didn't come over and vote. So how are you gonna get that turnout to come here on the 17th with no activity in this building?
And we agree about,
Throw a big party again. I will book every food truck in the area. Like I will get people here again if that's what that comes down to.
No.
Do we have regents that day?
Well, one thing I do have to clarify, Mrs. Fanning's got the schedule. We do have to make a small adjustment. The budget hearing has to be anywhere between June 3rd and June 10th. That's when the budget the hearing has to be. So we have to schedule it then. But I just want to go back to something Carol said, if you don't mind. One of our challenges is trying to get information out to people that don't have school children beyond social media. And quite frankly, I'm not sure how to do that. So if anybody has ideas, I did reach out to a couple of our like local agencies and things like that, but people are like, no, we kind of understand. I don't know that people did really understand, but I think they thought they understood. Because you don't think it's going to happen until it happens. And I think, and I've said this before, I think a lot of people go, oh, somebody else will vote. It'll be fine. Somebody else will just take that. And I think that was the case this time as well. But we did look at the numbers, the demographics of people that voted. Many seniors came out. And that's not to indict a senior group at all. They are taxpayers. Senior citizens.
Okay.
Sorry. But, you know, they felt very strongly, if I could be candid, that they were on a fixed income. They love our schools. They love everything about them. They have grandchildren, but many of them felt they couldn't afford it. The board did hear from, I believe, a resident of Pittstown. I want to say it was Pittstown.
Yes.
And spoke about the reassessment and how that impacted them. Again, very positive towards the school. And again, I feel like I'm a broken record when I say this. This is the only thing people can vote on. They can't vote on their city, their town, their village, their fire, their state, their government. This is the only thing. So when people are feeling a way in whatever it is, this is their only vote. And it's really awful that we have to put the educational program that we feel is best for kids up for a popularity contest, because that's really what it is. And people don't have a vote. They don't have a voice. So this is it, unfortunately.
And I also think too, oh, go ahead.
If we go on a contingency budget or we go back to the previous budget, is it possible for our school to, within some even small manner, maintain programs like the REACH program or the CHORUS program? Because they are very, very important to students. If
So,
the REACH program wasn't here, I probably wouldn't even pass school.
yeah, I'll answer that as best as I can. Ms. Fanning can correct me if I'm wrong. Probably not. One of the things, as Ryan said, when we started the process, there's certain things that were mandated by the state to do. So, whatever the state says, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And if you were to take the alphabet, I believe there's 26 letters, right? So if you take the alphabet, we can decide on 2 of those 26. And I might be a little bit off there. So to answer your question, no, REACH would absolutely go away and the choir would absolutely go away in a contingency budget.
I just overheard you when you first started, you mentioned sports being cut. What sports in particular?
Well, given that number, I would think that all interscholastic sports would be gone if we had a contingency budget.
All sports.
All sports.
We actually can't.
We'd be down to basic classrooms.
We have to go with mandated programs only. So every extracurricular, clubs, sports.
This is why we can't.
This is why we cannot get to it.
That's why the risk is so high to
Right.
say, let's put the same budget back out.
I know, we were too.
Super important.
Yeah.
Like, what would we?
Right.
Before we get too far
I'll
into this
volunteer,
though,
I'll coach the sport.
so that emotional reaction though,
No, I'm actually like shook.
I would love to tell you that this is the last time we'll face something like this. It's not.
It's not.
Healthcare costs are crazy. It's going to keep going up. Next year, I can guarantee you we'll have the tax cap conversation. So
I know you
all
said
of you,
healthcare
if you
costs.
believe in that, share the
I
message.
just one quick question on the healthcare.
Yeah.
I know at one of the previous board meetings, you said that the insurance went up around 16%. I'm a business owner and I pay for my employees as part of their package for their health insurance, and my insurance never goes up that much. It goes up, but not 16%. So, or
I can answer that.
Other options?
Yeah.
I can answer that. We're part of a consortium, and it's based on, well, the consortium allows us to get better rates because you're involved with many, many school districts. But your rate is based on your, experience. That's the word I was looking for. So if you have 1 or 2 catastrophic claims, meaning a member or their spouse or their child that has some kind of I'll say stem cell or something like that, your rates can go sky high. Believe it or not, 16% wasn't the highest by any stretch. And it was actually pharmaceuticals that went sky high, but our liability insurance also went up 28%. Not as much of a big nugget. And again, we didn't have a bad experience, so to speak, but everybody probably saw their homeowner's insurance go up this past year. It's I don't want to say it's kind of no different, but it's a very similar threat.
Yours is like more on steroids. Like I know if someone sits in my parking lot, my policy's gonna go up, but it's gonna go up 28%.
Right. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't some of our healthcare plans part of the benefits package that are negotiated with the union?
Yes.
So we can't make changes to our packages either. What they have, they have. Some insurance policies will lower what they offer and raise copays. Many of ours are frozen. So that doesn't help.
High deductible plans aren't
Yeah.
necessarily an
Yeah.
option. You can't change it. I work for health insurance, and as I've
So-
annoyed Angelina about it for a long time, I wish there was a way around some of that because it's.
Can I just say one thing too? And I'm sorry, I know that there's these 2 students that want to talk, but before we get too far away from this, we are 9 people up here, okay? And it took us, and well, actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to speak for myself. It took me years to understand this budget because I was like, what do you mean our boiler is broke? Why isn't the state paying for that? Why isn't the state paying for this? Just like the SRO, right? So the state does not cover what you think it covers. Like, and I'm not trying to this isn't about bashing the state. I'm just trying to, like, this is where I had a hard time grasping and understanding. So we are 9 members up here, and we do our best to answer the community's concerns and all of the chatter that's out there. But you guys coming in and you being informed and you being informed and you being informed, you guys we now just grew, and you're going to go out there and you're going to say, hey, wait a minute. Nope, that's not right. If you're at the baseball game or the soccer game, okay, you hear the chatter. Whoa, hold on a second. The reason why they're putting in the field is because that's a capital project that's completely separate from the budget. So that's the difference, is that yes, money is going all over the place, and there's a lot into this budget. And honestly, the finance committee, we have like 3 committee members, but every single one of us came to probably, I'm not mistaken, 9 meetings that were at least 3 hours long to go over budgets. And that's not just this year. That's every year. We sit around this table and we're this community. Our kids are in this school. Our homes are in this school. The school is the heart of your community. Without a school, you don't have a community. That's how I feel. Okay. So you being educated and coming to these meetings, and yes, we want to get flyers out. We want an educated public, because an educated public is our best form of defense. Because sitting around this table and making decisions, that's great. But we have every student in mind. We have every taxpayer. We have to be fiscally responsible for everyone involved. It's not just like, oh yeah, great. You guys want feathers in your classroom? Okay, here's a check. Like, we do not have any fluff in our budget. And I wish we did, because we wouldn't be here.
Tammy, can I just add one thing before we get to the kids? The one, my word, disadvantage that this district has compared to some of our neighboring districts is the portion of our budget that's made up with school taxes. Every district is funded by the state differently. Some have 90% state aid, 10% school taxes. Some people have 90% school taxes and 10% school aid. But the more your portion of tax dollars, the more you have to rely on your community to actually pay for things. That's the situation that we're in. So when you're in a tough economic climate and you're not an exceptionally wealthy place, the taxpayers are very concerned about their taxes. But that funds a huge portion of what we do. Whereas, and people get frustrated, why does so-and-so down the street, why don't they have to worry about it? Well, because their money comes directly. They don't have to ask the taxpayers to fund a good portion of their budget. Does that make sense?
Go ahead, Piper.
For Reach, I know you guys can't do anything about it or anything, but I have a lot of friends that are in Reach. And when we were in elementary school, per se, we had teachers that were helping, but they've grown a lot since they've been in Reach too. Because it kind of just gives kids that extra time, from what I've heard, extra time to just focus on school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I just firmly believe in that.
Well, we do too, and we hope to keep it. Emily?
Hello, my name is Emily. I'm a senior here, so any decision made will not affect me next year, but I know that there's a lot of kids behind me who I want to have these programs. And I know you all want these programs to stay too. And I look at this as we have one more shot to make sure that they can. I mean, I was in choir since kindergarten. Mr. Russ can vouch for that one. I just want these programs to stay. So how do we get it out there? Can Gavin's video go on News Channel 13? Can we make a big event? Can this be something where we can get this vote to pass? Because for me personally, the choir program shaped me into who I am today. The Reach program, I'm not even in it, and I love the teacher. Comes to my gym class all the time.
His picture's on my refrigerator.
We all know that we want these programs to stay, and we all know that we're going to be heartbroken if they don't. So my question is, how can we make this day, this vote, big enough so that the people who care do come out and make it happen.
Can you get your friends to register to vote?
That was a big problem.
Yeah,
That's a big
I'll
problem.
mention that the voter, and I'm not an expert at this by any stretch, but I did learn a little bit. The voter registration process is different than it's been in the past. You actually have to go online, and it's not actually very easy, but some people were registered when they changed their address or changed their license. So it's not intuitive, I guess is probably the best way to say it. So for the kids that want to, I know Emily was telling me that she was trying to and she got frustrated with it. So it's one of those things, but it was one of those things that I think, just persevering through it.
I mean, what does stink is that I feel as though the seniors made a mistake on our end, and I feel like there was another mistake somewhere. We weren't all informed about the registration process. So if all of the seniors who went out to vote were registered, I believe it would have passed.
I think you're right.
One of the biggest concerns and questions in my mind, even if we do another vote and we win, what will we have to still cut?
That's what they need to decide today.
Not today.
Well, discuss today, discuss today.
So,
Being very clear.
Two quick questions. One, do you know when you register, how long that process takes? Is it-
10 days.
10 days.
Okay. And then secondly, to the point you mentioned about the field, and I think that is part of the discourse. I think they're.
Yep.
they're-
100%.
What is the best
Well,
way to?
sure, I mean, the best way to address that, if somebody brings it up to you, is the public, we voted for that last year. So it wasn't, it's not money we're pulling out of program. It's money that we specifically asked the general public, do you want to have, here's what we would like to spend money on. Do you approve it? And it was approved by a large percentage. So that, but once, it wasn't,
Short memories.
can you give us $2 million? It was, will you give us $2 million for a field? And the answer was yes.
Now that there's a yes to that, we can't say
Right.
scrap the field and take all that money and put it in the budget. We can't do that.
That's exactly right.
I think you and I,
yeah, it's separate money. That money, we had saved a bunch of money over years. And there's also state aid on the funding for that field, which we actually get money back on. It's not funds that you can intermingle. So we couldn't actually take that money even if we had it and use it for that.
And honestly, I'm sorry.
No, you go.
No, go.
I was gonna say, so when someone says, why did we buy a field and now we're talking about losing jobs and all these critical programs? The right answer to that is exactly what Kevin said. It is separate funds. We would have loved to have said, let's take this pool of money and put it towards something else, right? Or that we're gonna cancel the field. We can't. That's the simple answer.
And honestly, the field is the smallest portion of that capital project. We are getting new fire alarms in both buildings because they are over 20 years old. We can't even get parts for them anymore. The furnace, the boiler.
Safe, secure entry.
Safe, secure entry in the vestibule, the roof, like the school, right,
I don't think a lot of people realize that.
right.
That was out there last year when it got voted
Here
on.
too. So, I know cause the athletics program always
Maybe, why
gets
don't we,
like
because
the,
that's
the
starting,
first.
and that's gonna be starting in the next couple
Couple
weeks.
of weeks.
Maybe we say, hey, look out for our, the upcoming project, this is what's gonna be going on from our previous,
Capital project, non-budget.
That would be very beneficial.
Yeah.
Especially given this.
We should also get us something out about, there is going to be another vote. We don't know what exactly it's gonna be yet, but there's going to
Right,
be
like
another
save
vote,
the
no
date.
matter what. A save the date and a get yourself registered and
Yeah,
check that
register.
you are ready to go. It can be a 10-day process. Start it right now.
And get informed.
But I think also just a visual that says this is what the budget is for and this is what it's not for. Because I saw so many comments that just said, well, this, and they thought it was.
What do you mean, like,
Say
can
as
you,
much.
so like,
There is not the field.
Not this.
Why are they spending money on
Okay.
the field
This is
without the
You
teachers?
voted on this.
right, already approved.
Yeah.
I have to say
That part.
thank you to some of you in the
Yeah.
room who I saw try to counter some of that dialogue. It's
Yeah.
really,
Thank you.
really appreciated because it's sometimes hard for us to step in and be like, No, you're wrong. But yeah, I mean, again, like education is the number one thing that we have to focus on. And I will keep saying this. This will not be the first time we're facing something like this. We're almost certain to face something like this next year. So educating your friends, your family, your parents, like whoever else, anyone is really important.
You know, Ryan, if I could just mention, a couple of people who saw me in the hallway just said, why don't you have tax dollars? There's all this stuff on Hoosick Street. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, oh, they're Chick-fil-A, mentioning all the things. And I said, that's not our district. And people are very confused that the industry that you see along Hoosick Street and all those major things that are big tax dollars, they do not belong to our district. That is Troy City School District. So even though it's the town of Brunswick and you could throw a stone to them from our district, we do not get the tax dollars for probably 95% of those businesses.
It's a $150 million budget. And ours was 30. So it just,
if you think about it, there's very few industries in our district. So this is on the backs of homeowners like yourselves.
Yeah.
Is there a way that an application can be made to change the amount of state funding versus tax dollars? I don't
Only,
know.
No, that's a great question. It's a really good question. A lot of people don't.
I have a very angry freshman who will send every email to every politician you want. And he will look through every other person.
That is the answer.
Right. That is the answer. As Mr. Roddy said before, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And, I don't think they respond really well to canned campaigns, like cut and paste emails that look the same, but heartfelt correspondence with people that can actually do something really does make the difference.
And lots of.
The one video that the one student made about the budget, unfortunately, that got posted, later than I would have liked. I mean, I would be happy, and I'm sure everyone in this room would be happy to share the students' work, on social media so that they're hearing from the students of how these things are affecting them. I would support wholeheartedly.
Thank you.
We actually had a guy from state aid come to one of our financial or audit meeting, and he said that the formula for them calculating state aid is like 27 Excel pages long. It's like something astronomical. We were just like, what? So it's very.
It's convoluted is the best word.
It's written to serve some communities better than others.
You could
that's the
never
answer.
understand it.
This is a pet peeve of mine, and I just want to add this. And we're not equals, but if you compare us to Hoosick Falls just down the road, identical enrollments, higher poverty level, we get about $7.5 million in state aid. They get over 14 million.
That's where I'm thinking that if
So-
there's something that we could do.
So they do have a higher poverty level, but I don't know how it justifies twice the amount. I'm just pointing out how convoluted and wrong the formula. It helps some people more than others.
Emily's arm's gonna fall off.
Emily?
I understand that you want to push out the same budget, and I want the same budget pushed out too, for the students to be able to have what they had in the past. But do you feel as though, without as high of a showing as the art show, that budget will have the same chance of passing as it did before?
I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think we're pretty sure that we can't go above the tax cap because that 60% threshold is super high.
We're gonna get the same people that voted against it, who definitely coming.
And you guys being here,
People here.
right?
That was here last time.
Like you guys being here is great. We love the support. We also received emails saying, do not put this budget out. We do not want it to be over the tax cap. We can't afford it. We get surveys that people fill out after they vote. A massive amount of them said, I voted no because I can't afford it. Just as hard as you guys are pushing right now and supporting and saying, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. I know whoever's on Facebook in the Facebook group knows there's someone out there who's like, I will burn this place down and let everybody know not to vote for this budget.
She doesn't mean that.
There's the same number of people out there. You saw the numbers. There's the same number of people out there campaigning just as hard to have it voted down. So we love the support. We wanted it to pass clearly, but there's a big, big portion of people who don't want it to, and very clearly made that known in their surveys and their emails that came back to us and their comments on Facebook, and they'll push just as hard for a no as we all will for a yes.
We received many emails saying that they're aware of this push to go back out with the same budget, and you just don't try again till you get the answer you want, was one of the comments.
Would you consider still going over the tax cap, but at a lower rate? So instead of, 5.75 at 4%.
No, I personally, no, it would be like, yeah, it wouldn't, the risk versus reward would be even less.
The number doesn't honestly, at the end of the day, matter. Like, is it?
I
6.5
agree.
or
Listen,
6
I
or
agree with that. I know the logic. but
No,
I
I'm
think
just
that- I
saying-
think the numbers is what scares people, right? They're
Correct.
like, oh my God, 6%, like that's
The thing
crazy.
that definitely scares them is the statement that we have to go over the cap.
Okay.
That's.
It's, they're going over the tax cap.
It makes it sound like you're doing something wrong. When honestly, I think you're gonna, in my opinion, I think you're gonna start to see many more districts in the area that's gonna become normal. And once it becomes normal, I think it'll be less, but I don't see with the rising costs of everything, I don't see how districts that have the balance of state aid and taxes like we do will be able to be fiscally solvent long-term.
And I would say, once it becomes normal, you'll see the state start to rethink it.
Yeah, there were several districts in the area that went over that. Unfortunately, it was us and, was it Scotia Glenville?
Scotia, New Lebanon.
That failed, but North Greenbush, or East
East
Greenbush
Greenbush
passed.
passed.
Salem went out at 8% and passed.
Yeah, the one thing that was interesting to me, I mentioned before about the senior citizens, and I don't mean to indict that group at all. But what resonated with me was they were well informed to come out. They knew enough to come out and say no. So part of me thinks the communication pathways must have been decent enough that they knew to, I don't want to say rally, but they got up and came to something that had nothing to do with them, meaning their kids weren't at school or anything like that. So
And in my 13 years, we only lost one other vote, and that was a huge capital project to build a big gym off the high school, I guess. And it was the same thing. That same demographic was here at 8 o'clock in the morning. And, obviously we don't know how they voted, but we know we lost.
Yeah, but just to give you perspective on that. So we looked at the age ranges that voted, and again, we're not indicting anyone by this, but just sharing something. You looked at last year's turnout and you looked at this year's turnout, and you looked at the percentage those age ranges made up of the vote. The 70 to 90-year-old range was the only one that outpaced last year. So a larger percentage of them came out than the previous year, whereas every other demographic, all, 18 to, 70-year-olds were down percentage-wise over the past year. So that's a huge component of what we're dealing with.
You've had your hand up forever.
Yeah, so one of the conversations I saw a lot on social media was that people were doing their own math on trying to figure out how much their taxes were gonna go up. And a lot of people were doing math that was incorrect.
100%.
So I guess the suggestion that I would have about that is, if we're gonna do an education campaign, if we could put per $1,000, this is how much your taxes are gonna go up. So if your property is valued at $300,000, this is the increase that you would see, something like that, because a lot of people, their math was wildly, hundreds of dollars more,
Yeah, I think.
You're exactly right. I'm sorry, Angelina.
Yeah.
But it varies because we have multiple towns and they all have their different tax rates. So it becomes very difficult, and then it becomes ballpark, but I agree with you.
But it's not basic this times this, which is what people think it is.
Where
But you can do it.
where was that? Like on Facebook? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It won't be exact because we don't have new assessments and equalization rates, but.
But a rough
But we could
estimate.
say an estimate with an
If
estimate.
that's something we could look at and maybe reach out to someone that can help us craft something in a meaningful way. That's a hard one to combat too, for sure.
Are the times for the voting, has to be 8 o'clock? Because unfortunately, you have that 70 and 90, they can come during the day. But for me, I work all day, and then you have sports till at least 8:30.
You want to have it 8 to 9?
One of our biggest challenges, this is going to be crazy, is actually finding people to work. No, I'm serious. We've actually, yeah, we actually have some.
You said it.
I'll work it.
some lovely ladies that are like in their 90s working at the polls,
My
which,
father's got there.
yeah, so sweet. But that's been one of our limiting factors. We almost had to make it be 12 to 8 because we couldn't find people to even work in the morning. So if anybody knows anybody that wants to work, because we're gonna have another vote.
Angelina, what are the requirements for a
Two
poll worker?
volunteers to work.
I shouldn't have said it. I don't know off the top of my head, but what is it?
A resident.
You have to be a resident and you have to be over 18. I know that.
And you have to be
Sign me up, I'll do it.
I was about to say.
Emily and Scarlett will do it.
Oh, yeah.
Make a little
Question in the back?
Right early. Yeah, I just want to make a public education moment here. Next week is the Board of Assessment Review for all your local towns. You may want to figure out what day and time. It's usually Tuesdays.
What was it, Carol? I'm
The
sorry.
Board of Assessment Review for all the towns for your property taxes. Pittstown is next Tuesday, 4 to 8. I'll be there. I'm on the board. So it's really important to also educate yourself about your local taxes and where you pay your property. This is a good opportunity. If you don't know what you pay your property taxes, you can come and get that evaluated as well. But if someone was upset about their property taxes with their school taxes, and that's a conversation you've had in this room, please educate them that next week is when most of the towns are meeting. And they include that for the public to come in and ask about their taxes.
Carol, can you send me something? Because we could put that on our Facebook page for people. I just don't know anything about it, but if you get it to me, I can put something out.
Pittstown's 4 to 8 next Tuesday. Town hall. I'll be there.
Right behind you, Carol, there's a lady with her hand up.
Kristen Zakarowski, I'm a teacher over at the elementary school. But my son is a senior at a different district, and he registered to vote within the school day. I don't know what class did it, but I don't know if that's something that the school might want to be able to offer their seniors.
Like the day of the vote?
No,
Oh, okay,
whatever
okay.
paperwork, and I don't know if it was on his birthday or whatever, but I think it was a paper.
Yeah, maybe we send
date and
over
her last name.
Yeah.
the kids, happy birthday, go register.
Exercise your right.
We did have a couple boys that stopped by, to be honest, that were nervous to vote because they were nervous to register because they were afraid of selective service that they came and shared. So it was interesting that was a comment that I hadn't heard in the past.
So just as a, I guess, public service announcement, the League of Women Voters of Rensselaer County, they do go into schools that invite them to their senior classes to help them register to vote. That may be what happened with your son. And so they bring the paper forms, they have them fill them out there, they take them back and get them all registered to vote. Because in New York State, they can register at 16, they just can't vote until they're 18.
I'll share that with our participation in government.
And just one thing about taxes, nobody likes a tax increase. But when your school raises its taxes, it's to sustain the programs we offer. And as these programs diminish, the home values diminish. And it's just a talking point for people. People always want to look at, they only want to look at the bill and how much more it's going to cost them. They're not realizing it's increasing the value of their house over
It's a really
time
good point.
instead of diminishing it.
Just to piggyback on, as soon as someone said about the sports programs, that's immediately what I thought about, the wrestling program my son's no longer engaged in, but we have kids that are receiving, phenomenal accolations for their wrestling, who have finally been wrestling all the way up through elementary school because our district has been able to invest in that for them, and I would hate to see, there's so much opportunity. This is truly an investment in our children today and tomorrow.
Yep.
I know this is totally off topic, but what's gonna happen to like field trips and stuff like that?
Right now, if the next budget passes, no change. If it went to contingency, I think field trips are one of the things that are cut.
Yeah, another thing I just wanted to add, I think having the SRO and having such a wonderful UPK program that had the opportunity for 45 children. My daughter was in the pre-K program last year and it was absolutely phenomenal. Mrs. Matzer is a godsend and I can't say enough about it. I think having that UPK program, it was a full day, having 45 seats for those children is absolutely admirable for the school district. You don't see that in a lot of school districts from what I have seen. Having an SRO is also an admirable thing. So, that's what brought me here today is those two items because I have a son who I was hoping to get into pre-K next year. And unfortunately, I received the email that he will not make the cut for next year due to the reduction in class size. So
Was it last
you know,
year
we've
we
been
added?
talking about it all year, wanting him, he's been excited to go to pre-K, and again, this isn't just me, it impacts all those 16 children that didn't make the cut, so.
That's another advocacy point. UPK is not a fully funded program, even though that's what the news says. It's not even remotely fully funded. So when you're writing to your local folks, that's one of the things to advocate for. I couldn't agree with you more about the importance of early education. It's absolutely pivotal, but they should fund it. If they want everybody to have it, they should absolutely fund it. For many years, we only had one class, and then we went to two and then added a third. But I will just also.
We added two at once.
Did we have two at once?
We had
Thanks.
two at once.
I will just further add that this year, no matter what, we would have had a waiting list. I think we had 48 kids sign up for 45, what we thought was going to be 45 slots.
We added those two during COVID with COVID funds because the kids coming in were struggling and, with, not being interactive. And so that's when we made the move and we were going to just do one, but there was enough people, so we went to two. That was supported by COVID funds, which are now gone. So that's part of the dilemma we've had. We have a lot of these things that were funded solely with COVID funds.
And even our
That money's
COVID
gone.
funding was not as much as other districts
I
were.
mean, other districts are like drowning in their COVID funds. Like, we just don't know what to do with all this money. And we're just like, shut your mouth.
School counselors, COVID, there was several other things that were COVID money.
Yeah.
About like pre-K and stuff like that, I know if you can't get your children into pre-K, what my mom did is she brought me, if you can do all this, you can bring your children to museums, read them educational books, help them count, repeat the alphabet to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so my name is Angela and I have 4 children in the district. 2 are graduates and 2 are currently in the high school and middle school. And I'm hearing from Emily and Carol, and I think so many people here that it seems like communication and education are key here, and that the turnaround has to be very quick on this. It has to be organized. So I guess I'm wondering, leaving this meeting, if we have that commitment to figuring out how to educate the community.
Absolutely.
It is something that, that I would volunteer to be part of. It sounds like most people here would. We also have, a body of alums who are back from college now, who I think would, if we can get that go out along with the seniors, that could potentially be hugely helpful. I want to know, I guess I want to leave this meeting understanding what I can do or what we can do as a team here to actually start working on this tomorrow.
So one of the things we'll ask, and Lori's right here, is I would imagine PTA would host something again. Perhaps we do it a little more online so that we can reach a broader demographic just to answer some questions about it. I'm sure PTA would be happy to do that. I'm sure Booster Club would be happy to host us as well if need be. I don't know the best way to reach our senior citizens. I'm not sure what that would be. But I would be open to ideas about that.
I
Bring
think-
them into the school.
I have a suggestion, and I don't know how we do it, but can we get voting in the elementary? Because that's where the parents are. They didn't, that building was packed and not all of them came over.
Yeah. The answer is yes,
So if there's an
but I
event-
think we just have to figure, speaking just broadly, risk versus reward, because there's not a natural place to bring people in that aren't right where the kids are. And
17th is a half day. Maybe 12 to 8 voting over there.
I have to check the timeline of when we have to do everything. I'm not.
It is a half day.
Or 10.
The vote date, yeah.
Right.
The 17th, okay.
Yeah, there's
So,
regions
and
sometimes.
what about if we invited the senior citizens here and did like a bagel and coffee educational, this is why you need to vote yes for your community? They love coming out.
They come to the concerts.
They come to the, I mean, we give them free concert and that free lunch. And I'm just saying, like, and trust me, my mom was part of that. So, there are senior citizen groups within the community that maybe we just need to reach out to.
I'll just say this, if your concern is the affordability of a tax increase, nothing that any of us are going to do is going to change your mind on that.
I agree. Those 400 people were not.
I'm not interested in changing them because I think we can all certainly understand the situation that they might be in.
Yeah.
So I personally, I don't want to try to change their
Right.
mind. What I want to do is make sure that every single person that wants the budget to pass votes. Like, that's the goal, period. And whether it's above the tax cap or at the tax cap or whatever it is now and in the future, that's our goal.
And if we're holding an event on this campus, that they're gonna not come to the event in this part of the building, but not walk over here and vote. Because I feel, I was here, Tammy and I were here for 3 hours. We're walking over to the other building because I had my nephew, my niece had stuff over there. There was people, I heard it. Now I'm not going over to vote, I gotta leave. Like, they weren't connecting. So if you're gonna spend the money and have these events, we want them where the voting.
And we do
is.
the scavenger hunt, that they have to submit their entry at the entryway of the voting. So to win the big, it's the tiger, right?
It is
For
the
Bengals.
tiger.
How's the tiger doing?
Who won the tiger? is-
The tiger safe.
My son won the tiger. I fully recognize how bad that was.
He earned it.
He did.
Earned it. And it's
He did.
completely random, but I have a memory, I know.
He was so
I
shocked.
threw the paper out, Ryan. I apologize.
He came up to me and he said, excuse me, and the whole back sheet of his scavenger hunt was blank, and it was 7:45 at night. And he said, do you have to go to both buildings to do this, or technically you do? And he was out there like freight train. So he earned it. He earned it.
I will say, having a large 5-foot tiger in your house. I don't know what we do.
Security
with it, but
system, you're fine.
It is. I'll just put it on the front porch.
Yeah.
Scare off.
Just about getting voters that are next door doing drop off. What about if we did the voting like outside under a tent, like close enough to the school where you could run all the extension cords, but like right out on the grass, like park, bring your kid in, vote, takes 2 seconds. I mean,
Spots was under 10.
I'm happy to like work on it and
Yes.
donate
So
it.
you had to walk through a line to pick up your chicken dinner,
Like, what excuse
and then the exit to your chicken dinner was right into the voting tents.
do you love your?
Did you guys hear? I'm looking at Lori because I can't do a chicken dinner, but you can.
I was at Boston Spa. I was at Boston Spa for a baseball game, and they had tents set up where you picked up your chicken dinner, and the exit for the chicken dinner line was a tent that was voting.
I
It
have
was
tons of huge
the
construction.
only way you could get out. Unless you turned around and looked like a total turd, like, oh, I'm not gonna vote. You don't, nobody look at me. So it almost out of embarrassment, you had to vote.
So the whole vote was outside?
The entire thing was outside under tents.
You got 2 over here.
I was just gonna say, I have a friend on Gilderman's Town Board, and what they do is they were trying to push their music program this year, so they actually had all the little kids playing music while the people were waiting to vote. So then you have to, just stare at the child.
She'll sing. Piper was singing at the voting in the library.
Yeah.
I just say one thing I would suggest is maybe even passing a sign up sheet if somebody has a piece of paper around tonight, just to get parents who would be interested in gathering all these ideas and getting on a committee that.
Well, we definitely need you guys whenever we do plan on having the budget
This is
meetings
Tammy's
as to when we vote. We need you guys all there again, and we need you each to bring 3 or 4 friends.
Next Thursday?
I don't know.
No, the vote will be on the 17th.
No, I meant.
Budget hearing.
The meeting.
The 3rd and the 10th.
So I think we're gonna,
Between the 3rd and the 10th.
I think we're gonna try for June 3rd. That is the earliest by law that we can do
Do
it.
you want our phone number too?
Jack, I don't think we can do
If you
June.
can do email and phone.
I think
Yeah, email's probably best.
June 3rd.
June 3rd's a Tuesday.
That's the pop show for,
Oh, we couldn't be there.
right,
So everyone
so
else could.
you have the pop show for
We'll figure
the,
it out.
yeah. It's a
That's a
tough
great
week.
time to advertise though, to put out flyers.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Right? Any event, the concerts, the honors assemblies, the award ceremonies.
Carol put up a really nice example of like, ooh, this looks great. This is great communication. I shared that with the board and said, we need this kind of communication. We as a board are beholden to certain rules about what we can put out and what we can say and how we can say it. Cause I was like, you need to finish that off with vote yes. We can't do that. But maybe the PTA can say vote yes and put something out. Maybe the soccer team can say vote yes and put something out. We as a board are beholden to specific rules regarding some stuff, but organizations that you guys are involved in the Tamarack community, have your organizations put something out, because we need everybody we can to help with it, and we can only say certain things and do certain things where you guys aren't under the same exact rules and laws on what you can and can't say and do.
Want to propose canceling practices and games that day. You
That's
know, like
so many parents running from,
Yep.
you know, work to
Soccer-
the sports field
soccer
and
club or
then you go
whatever.
3,
Yeah.
voting's already
Right.
closed.
Off that though, is there a way, I know when I voted, the person right ahead of me, it said absentee ballot. Like, is there a way we can pre-vote?
Yes.
Or make it easier for people, how they can do that if they already have something
Are
like
they
that?
sending out
How do you get those
absentee
out?
ballots this one?
Short time.
It's gonna,
That's
it's gonna be.
That's a good question.
It's on that
Yeah, for-
timeline.
For the absentee vote, you have to request it. That, all that information is right on our website about like, am I registered, how to get an absent. It's a big bullet right on our website. Budget is one of the first like buttons you can see, and then it goes right to that. We are gonna be on a tight timeline, which is gonna be tough. And one of the things that I'm hoping to get some feedback on is what we send back out to the public. So as Mr. Roddy mentioned before, it takes time to actually create a newsletter and get it printed and get it ready to go. And we can't send anything out about the budget until after the hearing. That's when you can actually send something out. We didn't even send it bulk mail because bulk mail sits in a pile for the longest time. So we sent it regular mail, and it was post stamped on 5/9 and people didn't get it until 5/22, 5/23. So getting that out is going to be tough for sure.
Because
Can
we
we
can't
try
rely
a
on it.
different, instead of going to the Craftsville post office, can we go down to Troy? Will it matter?
Take it straight to Troy.
Truthfully, I'm not sure if it matters because I've even driven it to the Albany post office. I did that last year and we still had the same thing.
Sat there.
It actually sat there.
But I think stuff in Troy might not go anywhere but Troy.
Not sure.
You know, honestly, I think what we need to do is we all need to phone a friend. Day of budget. Hey, you know, coaches at workout places have people signed up to help hold you accountable. If you got your workout in, call your friend. Be like, hey, did you vote today? I mean, it's an accountability. I know that it's a privacy thing, but you know, it's still, you know, I don't know, shame them. So, I don't know. So.
But a few things with the voting, like somebody mentioned absentee. Well, maybe some people can't get out, so maybe some of us volunteer to bring that vote to them and then bring it back. Maybe that.
Or pick people up.
Transportation's a problem for them. I'd be willing to do that.
Honestly, I don't know.
I think that would be something the PTA would have to do. I don't think the district is allowed to do.
Another thing is,
But the campaign to tell people that it's an option is huge. We have that information, but actually pushing it out so people can actually see it and take advantage of it, that's where people could be exceptionally helpful.
and I get back to where, like, before Piper was part of the school, I didn't know. I was supposed to come here to vote. I didn't know about the programs because my child wasn't in school yet. So maybe getting that out to people that don't know how important, what an impact, maybe statements from the kids. I don't know if that's something feasible when we're making these flyers, you know. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this program.
I think this was a pivotal year because in the past, consistently, with the exception of that one vote, we've passed the budget with flying colors, 65, 69%.
74.
High, right? This year, as most critical, we didn't pass it. It's, I think, eye-opening that more and more we rely on the tax dollars to pay for the essential programs that we have, whatever we come up with this year, you know, Lori, every PTSA partnership that we can do, food trucks, driving people to the vote, you know, whatever else it is, that's gonna have to become like our voting program that we.
The standard.
Like, it's gotta be something we do, because we can't forget what happened this year.
I think that a lot of people think like, or thought, like, our budget never fails. Like, it'll be okay if I don't get there, right? So we're in the situation, this 1%. And if, you know, we failed by 5%, if we failed by 10, 20, something crazy, I in no way would urge you to do this. I know what is at risk if we have to fall to contingency. I feel so strongly about putting this budget back up the way it is so that we do not risk these programs for our kids. And I know you feel the same. I appreciate each and every one of you because I could not look at this budget and do what you guys do and make a decision either way regarding this stuff.
So
If that is not an option, and we are now going to the second budget and we're looking at this list of, oh my God, is there anything on that list that has hope or a prayer of praying so that I can go after those people that fully support that program and say, please come to this budget vote. We need you to be here. What on that list can stay? One thing, two things, something.
Yeah, I think, well, you know, and I thank you for bringing that up because I think at this point, I think that's something that we need to discuss here. Because we do want the whole process to be transparent. The state budget, you correct me if I'm wrong here, and I'm going to use rough numbers. The state budget didn't pass until after we had already done our budget. And so after it passed, we did find about $100,000 of money from the state. So we do have some leeway there. We've had some discussion over email as a group. You know, some of us feel that it would be irresponsible to take any more money out of the bank. We have money in the bank. Part of this budget is that we're going to take $1 million out and use it towards this year's budget. And for many years, we've taken about $500,000 out. But somehow that money, because the budget obviously is a living document. You know, we say we're going to spend $30 million. A couple of kids move into the district, something happens, we may spend $30,500,000, or we may spend $29,500,000. So it's never an exact number. So in previous years, we've had some money left over and we've rolled that into the budget. I personally feel that we should take a little bit more out. Stephanie, Dr. Maloney, and many of the board members disagree with me, but that's how I feel. I feel like we have enough money in there to preserve what is truly our mission, which is education. You know, so, you know, I'm going to tell you my list, and again, I'm speaking for me. I'm not speaking for the board. My list would save pre-K and it would save REACH. You know, it may not be fiscally responsible, but it's the way that I feel.
I would, me personally, I would want to see the UPK, the REACH, and music.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
So
I want to save the teachers.
I want to save as many teachers as we can, and I am going to say that I am for taking more out of our savings account if we have to.
So what are we talking about? What we're talking about 200, 300,000?
yes.
Current gap is 239,000.
Okay.
If we take out $1 million from our reserves.
Okay.
So that would mean taking them, you know, again, rough numbers, $1.25 million.
And just to add something, it's like, as much as you would love the board to have a lot of power, we don't have that much. We have 2 powers.
No, we really don't.
We can set policy, although most of that comes to us from the state, so we don't have much of a say in it. And the other is that, you know, we're responsible for the budget. So we have a fiduciary responsibility, which means not just the current year, but future years, and making sure that our district does not collapse upon itself. So drawing money from the reserves is certainly an option, but I'm just saying, like, and I'm of mixed brains on this half the time.
It doesn't last forever, but
The level of risk.
so, and just so you understand fully, again, the convoluted nature of school budgeting, any money that we spend this year on pre-K, we get 70% of that back next year.
No, it's not 70.
I'm
Pre-K's
sorry.
not that much.
It's not that much.
Pre-K, we actually get up front. It's not a reimbursable aid.
Okay,
So pre-K is actually.
so I'm going to share this number.
It's also in our, it's accounted for in a different fund as well.
Okay.
So the number
So-
here is accurate, right?
So this number, so to save the pre-K class will cost us $16,000. So I think that it's a no-brainer. The pre-K will stay. Save the REACH program will cost us about $130,000, which we get zero aid. Is that correct? Correct. Which we would get zero aid. And the music program is about $40,000,
No aid.
zero aid. Go ahead.
Well, you get foundation aid, but
Not a substantial number.
Not a category.
Not a substantial number.
Special.
So, those are things that, and one of the things I'll tell you that, one of the things I thought we should do is not buy the buses. There was a couple $100,000 there, don't buy the bus. And I was told very sternly, you get aid back on that and our buses are old.
We just had a tow truck take a bus out yesterday.
But again, I've been on the board for 13 years. I had to be re-educated on how the aid works because it is so complicated and hard to understand. So that's why I want to share these numbers that we just got. Yes, go ahead.
So if the SRO is off the table of saving a little bit, it sounds like not everybody is.
SRO is $114,000.
And none of that is aidable.
Right, so.
There's another complicating factor of that too, is the county asks us to sign a 3-year contract. So even if you were to limp it along for another year, committing money 2 years from now is
We don't know that we can do
a
that.
challenge. That's just something to
But you're
think about.
saying contact the assemblyman.
Yes.
And you're saying more and more people to do it, the better.
Yeah.
Can our teachers, elementary teachers, have the kids write letters?
I was just gonna.
Yeah.
That's social studies
I'm
project.
already formulating it.
But that's one. Why can't we flood it with letters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right, why I love my SRO.
Right, like,
Absolutely.
kids like to do stuff like that. So we could,
So I think, I think that's a great idea. And I think, I don't think it's against the law, right? Okay. So if it is, they can come and find us later. So Kelly, if we could start a program like that, I'm sure that,
Draw pictures.
Lori and I'll donate money for postage.
Listen, no, we can have an SRO night on the 17th. I'll buy every bounce house there is in the district. Have the kids come out, have a letter writing station. There's
Liability.
problems up.
Can I just say one thing?
Okay.
everybody sign, anybody that wants to sign this?
Go ahead, man.
One thing about the SRO is when we looked at cutting, we were trying not to cut any personnel. We don't want any teachers or any teachers aides to lose our jobs. That was our goal. The SRO will not lose his job.
Yes,
And we will
great
not
point.
be changing classrooms or losing teachers. That was our thinking behind the SRO. Is he great? Absolutely. But we have to put education first, was our.
I think your hand's
Same.
been up for a really long time. You, yes, you.
So I'm thinking, I'm a numbers person, so if the tax cut that you're allowed to do, so now we have to, it would be 1.7%, and then you don't need the 60%, you just need the 50%. Is that true?
Yes.
So you said 3.55 tax levy, we were at 5.25?
5.9.
Oh, 5.9. Oh, sorry, I subtracted wrong then. So slightly more than that. And then you're talking about you got $100,000 back. What amount of money are you still looking that you are still missing? Was that the 350 you said?
That's the $239,657.
Gotcha.
So 240.
And are there grants? Can you look for grants for these programs instead of coming from this?
We're currently looking for something for the SRO. That's probably our most likely category. But there's nothing right this minute.
And Angelina does a good point of saying this because that's often a question that board members ask, like, what about grants? Because that's what we hear in other districts. As she says, well, we're not poor enough and we're not rich enough. So a lot of the grants are that target towards poorer districts we don't qualify for. And then we're not rich enough to have, things in our community to make that happen. So if y'all want to get poor, that would help. I don't recommend it.
I'm already there.
For the SRO, the current, it's called the COPS grant, I think, and I don't know what that stands for. But when I looked at the categories most recently, we are our population didn't fall into that category, unfortunately. We weren't the target community.
That woman in the gray has had her hand up forever.
I was just wondering what exactly of music is gonna be cut of that 40,000, because that's not an entire salary.
Say what?
What's the 0.5 music?
He would go in terms of classes.
Yeah, like.
I don't have that, but the schedule would go to part-time, which is what it was prior to the COVID funds. So prior to the COVID funds, it was a part-time position. We added to make it full-time with COVID funds. So it would just revert back to that. But the specific classes I don't have right yet.
Is that like elementary school or is that high school?
It's 0.5.
It was high school.
Yeah, go ahead.
So am I allowed to speak? I'm not a resident, but I work here.
You're allowed to speak. Absolutely.
So I'm Sadie Fulton, I'm one of the high school counselors here. And I know one of the positions up for cut is the elementary counseling position. And I just know that there was a COVID funded position. Since then it's gone part of our general fund balance, I don't know the technical terms. But I know that program has been built from nothing to something amazing there. Our school counselor goes in and does classroom lessons. She responds to crisis interventions. When she is back from maternity leave, she can actually go in and help with physical restraints if they need to happen. Which, if you have a radio in this district, there are many, many calls each day for classroom interventions by support staff. And she just does an amazing job down here. If that position is cut, it's going to affect the elementary school tremendously. It's also going to have an effect on the high school. I know that we won't be able to have time to do things that we want to be able to do in our district. The trades fair, I have been so passionate about since I started. That probably won't happen again if we don't have the support we need across the district to support our kids. And a lot of our students go into the trades or don't go to college and maybe want to go that route. So that would be something that would probably not happen next year, which would really break my heart. And the career fair that we had last year, we won't be able to continue with that ever again in the elementary school and give them some education on how to on future careers or different career paths that they might not be knowledgeable about. So just some things to consider, that cutting an elementary position will have ramifications for the high school as much as we don't want it to, but some of those big programs that we bring in won't be able to happen.
Absolutely. Thanks. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering if when you guys do go out and you're trying to put out some more education, if they could be more specific in that education, because you guys had many posts on the Brunswick page and all of them were including all the awesome things that happen at Tamarack, but very few of them pointed out what was actually at risk. They showed like, look at all these things. We have CTE programs, we have music programs, we have all these awesome things. But when asking the question, those are not the things that are on the table. So for people who are looking in, also the education is only on the Brunswick Schools Facebook page, not somewhere else. I'm in other community groups and there were discussions in other community Facebook pages about this without the education of what actually is at risk. So when you're going to put out that education, put out, we have a part-time music position that's full-time, we're gonna make it part-time. We have a UPK program that we need $16,000 for. My kids didn't get into pre-K here, and I paid way the hell more than $16,000 in daycare. So, I mean, that was just one person. If you've got 16 kids that are gonna get in there and not have to pay for daycare, I mean, that's huge. And you're gonna get 16 votes of people running out there, and the people that have kids that are 3 years old or 2 years old are also gonna run out to vote for that because they want that to be there. I mean, I had to pay, like I said, I had 2 kids, I had to pay a whole extra year of daycare, and that was a lot of money because my kids didn't make it in. It wasn't a UPK, it was only pick 20 special kids. At that point in time, it was a different point. But I really feel like you guys could get, and I also think keeping it under the cap is huge because that was what a lot of the discussion was. It wasn't about, some places, the discussions weren't even about any programs that were being cut. It was either how dare they go above the cap. If they just stayed under the cap and weren't being in their eyes greedy, then they would have
let it be. So those are just some things that are being said outside of the.
And those are the kind of community areas that we need help reaching. The soccer teams, the Facebook pages you're on, the moms group you're a part
So
of,
I would suggest
community swap page. That's the
making some
places.
Educational post and then asking people to share that factual post. Because because I went to the page, when I started getting information, I went over the pages to see, and there were so many posts, and I couldn't see, I mean, what is gonna be cut? Like, it was
Should
very
pin
difficult to
some
see
of
that.
those to the top too, because they did get lost in the sauce.
There were just a lot of things that were kind of vague, as to what's cut, as in this question, what of music is being cut?
You?
So, hi, everybody. My name is John Ronnie. You elected me to be on the next board, so I want to thank you for that.
Positive out of that night.
So, Angelina, talking about the SRO, Steve McLaughlin is out there talking about how great Rensselaer County is doing, right? I mean, he's given a ton of money to Troy to rebuild the pool, to rebuild the ice, right? So can we reach out to Steve McLaughlin and say, hey, can we do a one-year deal and can you help us to get us through this year? I mean, that might be something that we could do. Because I know he goes on about how Rensselaer County is doing better than ever, which it's great, it is. So maybe he can help us as one of the school districts in Rensselaer County. So that might be an option. Lori, bounce house is cool. Let's hit up Mrs. Whalen, right? Because Whalen has that, and I'm sure that they'd help us with that. Because I think you're right. Food trucks, bounce houses. The 1 year that I taught here, which was great. For those who don't know, I spent 1 year doing certain here. Social studies teachers, it's very hard to get jobs, so I ended up moving full time into hospitality. But the 1 year that I taught here was still the greatest year of my career professionally. I love the culture and what the teachers do here, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to get on the board. Anyway, the point is, though, that year there was pie in the face and a dunk tank for the teachers, and I took part in both. So maybe we make this almost like a carnival that day, and we get a dunk tank, and we get pie in the face, stuff like that. We really make it a community event. So I'm happy to help you with that anyway. But that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Would you believe that he and Jack are related?
No.
So different. Zach, do you also want to maybe just introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah. Zach Metzger, thank you guys. I just was elected to the school board also. Excited to be here and offer whatever help and mostly listen and see what we can do as a community. There are a lot of resources, but I also recognize it's a big challenge.
Emily, Scarlett, do you guys have your senior picnic coming up?
That's the last day of school, I believe. Here,
It's late.
What? It's too late. It's late.
It's late.
I have it on the 16th on my phone.
Is there? I don't know. Like, is there any way that we could do like a wishing them off and a saving our school, or I don't know. Like a combined, I don't know, and like the way that Greece ended. I know you guys are
good in putting vote yes, but I know I'd be willing to be a part of a campaign to encourage seniors to vote yes. But the big thing is they need to be registered.
And that's something that has to get out now.
I spoke to Mr.
Register
Olson.
now.
He said he typically does it, but he has had no service to make it happen. And that there's all these codes and all these things that these students have to fill out on their Chromebooks, that it's nearly impossible.
Right, but can you
Let's get the League of Women Voters in. I mean, let's reach out to them. I mean, these organizations, they love doing things like this. And they can probably get here in a hurry.
It'd be 10 days.
10 days. So
Right, so June 7th is the latest it could happen.
So can I set it up in the high school cafeteria on Thursday? Let's get them on, just to call the kids in, okay? Come on.
all 18-year-olds.
I
When
will.
do you guys target to decide what budget you're gonna put up for the next vote? And secondly, if you're gonna go with the alternative budget, will anybody in this room will you accept our feedback as to how you create that alternative budget?
So yeah, there is in fact a budget hearing that it'll probably be June 4th, which will be it's 2 weeks from Wednesday, June 4th? 2 weeks from yesterday. So yeah, you know, again, we had a minor discussion here. On June 4th, we'll discuss each of these items that we've talked about. And it will be a public meeting where the public is welcome. The format is slightly different in that we have one section of the meeting where we ask for public comment. That's typically towards the end, but I would say in this meeting, we'll put that towards the beginning.
Jack, can we have more of that conversation tonight with the crowd here in terms of?
Absolutely. I mean,
Because I want to go back to what you said. Yeah.
Are you able to share what percentage of the reserve that 1 million is? I'm just thinking in my head, okay, if we're already taking $1 million, what's another 200,000?
Sure.
What percentage of that reserve? What are we left?
The last slide I saw, there was $5.5 million in reserves.
Okay.
So if we even kept the exact same budget this year and we took $1 million, next year, we would at a minimum have to take another $1 million. I'm saying that right,
Sorry, I
right?
was talking. I'm
If
sorry.
we take, let's say we take $1.25 million out this year, next year, we're going to have to, at an absolute minimum, take another $1.25 million.
Depends what we use.
Unless we went over the.
Likely.
So, and yeah, Nick, I'm sorry, Stephanie did bring up something that I have a hard time understanding after 13 years. It depends on if we spend it all this year. So again, I talked earlier about how that budget is kind of flexible, and Stephanie does a great job of making the budget so that we're not going to have to dip into reserves during the year. She writes a very conservative budget, and typically we do have some money left over. But to Jenna's point and Kevin's point, you know, once you spend it, it's gone.
So, Jenna, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So if we take out $1 million this year, then we're banking on taking out $1 million again next year, unless we vote to increase the tax cap again, or that's guaranteed having to take it out again?
We would have to find more money
Well, so if
somehow.
Okay, so if you're appropriating, let's say $1 million into the budget to balance the budget, you may use that $1 million, right?
Right.
So then the next year, that fund balance will be down $1 million. Then most likely, based on, you know, the expenses of the district, we'd be taking out even more. And in 3 years, we'd have nothing. And I do want to share that I recently shared out a, Kevin, I'd love, yeah, I'd love you to
so
talk about that.
She put out a very nice spreadsheet of 80 local districts and their cash reserves based upon the number of students and based upon the budget. And we were below 20%. We were near the bottom with our reserves compared to the 80 districts. We were 14th percentile and 17th percentile. I don't remember which it was, either by our budget or by students. So we do not have a lot of reserves. You know, as you said, we have 5. We're going to spend $1 million. That money just doesn't grow. Once you take the money out of the bank, it's gone. So we can't rely on that, as she always points out. You can't have recurring funds. You can't have recurring spending based on your savings because it's going to be gone.
And we did very
Also keeps us in check too, that you have to understand that if a family moves into this district and they have 5 special need kids that each are gonna cost $100,000, that's on us. So where are we getting that? So she makes sure that we keep all of this in the back of our minds, because everyone hears $5 million. We're like, sweet, let's get a snow cone machine for the cafeteria. No, she keeps us in line with, wait, hold on, guys, like this, it's very scary.
Stephanie, can you highlight some of those, like, you know, the placement obviously is like $100,000. What's the cost of like a new school bus?
About $170,000 at this point.
They're going up because of the tariffs and steel prices.
Well, yeah, they
Do we
could,
still
yeah.
have to move to electric buses? Like,
Not yet, right? Not yet, not yet.
There's kinda. They
okay.
haven't pulled it fully off the table yet. I don't think it's gonna happen, but we still have to plan for it.
Okay.
It's not gonna happen.
Go ahead.
I used to work with special needs children in integrate classes. And a lot of the speech pathologists and aides and stuff were actually sent in from the state. Is that something?
They do work with our preschool population. The county funds the related services, but if they're school age, we're responsible for that, and we hire our own.
Tara.
Hi, that's a raw girl from 3 years ago. As everyone knows, I encourage you to come up with a safety
Public
plan
board
if
meeting
you're not
before the
doing
hearing.
an SRO. I know when we started this conversation 3 years ago, it was kind of, there was a lot of passion about it. But I do implore our board and our community to come up with a very solid safety plan if an SRO is not there. If there's not a guidance counselor who works hand in hand with the SRO for the behaviors in our school, there's many multifaceted parts. I know you understand. I know this whole room understands. I just implore you to come up with a very good safety plan. We didn't have one 3 years ago, which is why everybody was on board with this. But if we lose that, what are the next steps for that? If we don't have our amazing guidance counselor who proactively addresses some of those issues, what are we going to do with that? So it goes hand in hand with it all. And I just implore everybody to come up with a very solid plan going forward. I know as we all know, it's not just the presence, it's what they bring, the communication with the teachers, it's the making sure the building is secure, the resources. How many have they connected to the resources in the community that we don't know about, but we hear about?
The attorney's gonna say they don't recommend it, but so what?
Yeah, I won't care at all.
I know that, but there's many parts that unfortunately are at your head right now, and I'm sorry. And we're here encouraging that, but we're also, I want to make sure that with the infographics that we did, we need to continue that because visuals is what's really important. To be quite honest, that newsletter is as informative as it is. People glaze over it because it's the same format every year. It doesn't do any justice to those that do just kind of look at the same old, and unfortunately, it is a communication effort. I'm speaking to the choir, I'm not going to take long, but the guidance counselor is just as important as the safety plan. So please think of all of that when you're making your decisions going forward.
And that newsletter is also format-wise, not all of it, but some of it is stuff we're beholden to as well. Like, we can't just put all of the stuff we really want to put in there.
No, and I understand that, but maybe a couple extra snazzy graphics or something instead.
Totally with you.
That's all I'm asking. Just, I'm going to set up a table at Stewart's. Anybody wants to sign up? I'm going to start educating the community once we know.
If you sell Samoas, I'm there.
Because I can't tell you how successful that is for just the public. Every morning I go to Stewart's, people are talking about school. The other day we had our mock crash here. Everybody was out the window going, "Oh my God, what's going on?" I'm like, guys, mock crash. It's all planned. They're okay, and they go back to their day. But there's no one there to educate the public every single day. As much as we put it out there, that's just a good example. It's just people, like, I'm going to sit there at Stewart's, and I'm going to have your budget out there, and anybody wants to sit there with me, go for it. But
Just go to Stewart's, everybody goes to Stewart's.
that's a good communication.
Maybe we need to, Stewart's just needs to.
Have your voting at
Get free cone.
Cone if you vote. Can we ask for that? Listen, can you guys give us a little coupons for free cone?
Vote. If we put the vote back out, what would you vote again? Like, have that community conversation. Like, I can. I know you guys can't, but I can. It's like, okay, why did you not vote for it? And let me talk through it. I mean, people are for and for against it, but I'll start a sign-up sheet right now for Stewart's once the budget is out because we really need to get the word out there.
It's kind of like what Carol said with guidance counselors. I know education is really important and all of that. But some of these teachers that are great at teaching, no problem with that. But I feel like some of them don't have the best with mental, stability for kids and stuff like that. And I feel like that's kind of a big thing because school is supposed to be the safe place for kids where they can express themselves. Okay. And if they feel like they can't do that, that's not great.
Okay, thank you. So I'm sorry, I misspoke. We need to have a board meeting to discuss the budget hearing before the budget hearing happens. So can we try next Thursday?
Is that, so we can have a board meeting before that June 3rd and
We
10th?
have to.
Yes.
We have to, okay, yeah.
Will
The
we-
budget has to
The
be
budget
set on
has
the
to be
hearing,
set up
not
and ready to
discussed.
go, not discussed at
Okay.
that meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
But just, I mean, for the audience here tonight, like, I think, at least for me, I think we've certainly heard the priorities from you all. And whatever magic we can work, we'll certainly try to work it. But understand that even if we go out at tax cap, I don't want anyone in the room thinking, oh, it's easier this time to pass.
'Cause
Like,
it's not.
going to
It's
be a
not.
harder vote this time. It will be a harder vote.
Because people aren't going to understand that it's not the same budget.
So
And whatever we cut, all these things that we're on the chopping block here, we don't like any of them. There isn't anybody here that likes these cuts. But we're forced at some point, we have to make some decisions. And we don't
Diehard
enjoy them, and that's
people.
why the majority of the board ended up wanting to go out above cap to try to preserve these things. We don't enjoy this, we don't like any of this.
And by the way, that was not a unanimous decision. You know, there are all the concerns about going above the tax cap because of the message that can send. I think.
We went
all of us
round
would
and
say,
round
oh,
and
yeah,
round.
right.
Yeah.
So it was,
And it
it was a
literally came
risk.
down to the last meeting that we had, that we were able to all kind of come to an agreement. Yeah, and it still wasn't unanimous. There were still people who were not comfortable with it, so. Yeah, this is the part of being a board member that's not great.
But the pay is great, so.
Yeah, the pay is.
For those of you who don't know, we don't get paid.
Last time it didn't pass, and what did you do? Did
The
you?
the last time, in my 13 years on the board, the only thing that didn't pass was a capital project.
So it wasn't.
So it didn't, I've never been through this experience.
Have you gone over the tax cap before?
Never.
Never.
So I think, I misspoke. We're going to have a board meeting next Thursday where we're going to actually hammer this out and discuss it. That again is a public meeting. You're all welcome. And 7 o'clock next Thursday. And again, we'll do public comment at the beginning of the meeting, then we'll discuss it we'll discuss it publicly, what we want to do. And we'll come out of that meeting, hopefully, without being here till midnight. We'll come out of that meeting with a budget. Then we will schedule a budget hearing shortly after that. And
Jack, can we do that here in this room and not the library?
we will we'll do everything in this room. Absolutely.
Can I ask just a rough, how many of you felt really angry coming into this room tonight?
Not so much angry, sad.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
sad.
how
Sad
many
for
of you
kids.
are feeling a little bit better and a little bit more informed now that you've been here? Okay, all right. Just so that we have we just don't want to be talking to talk. Like, we want you guys to understand that, this is, I don't even know.
It's a public meeting. It's a public meeting. It's your meeting. And we are truly here to serve your interests. And, the more, it's unfortunate that we don't get more people at every board meeting.
Right.
Because, again, we all serve for the good of the children and the good of the community. And it's hard to know, I personally work a lot. I'm not out at the community. My grandchildren play sports here, so I'm occasionally at a sports thing. But you all are in that part of that community every day, and the more that we can interact with you, the better.
Confession time. I'll be honest, those flyers, I couldn't tell you what's on them. But when I see budget meeting or budget vote, now that I know, I just come and vote, because to me, it's no brainer. We're investing in our children. And when we invest in our children, we're investing in their future. we're investing in our community, we're investing in our future. Because and I tell her this all the time, it takes a village to raise kids. And this is our village.
Perfect. All right, I guess if no one has anything else, we don't have to make a motion, but I think if we've answered all your questions, we can all, go ahead.
100% if we go to contingency, sports are gone.
Yeah, I would say.
Because I feel like that would draw, I mean, I have two sons, they both play sports.
Yeah.
Coach here.
It's
I'll be
just,
honest, I have to pull my kids from school and I don't want to do that.
yeah,
because
it's a
I feel
huge
like that
number.
would draw people, like,
It's about $500,000.
you know?
It's 550, Kevin's better with numbers.
$535,000, you have to go back.
I feel like
Another-
that.
Yeah, it's our biggest that is our biggest non-mandated expense.
This is what we're looking at.
And we are truly trying to preserve it.
If we could get them to cancel the games for the night of the vote, I know that so many people were like, I can't go. I can't even go to the art show.
And that's when we'll need the outside groups, because school ball will be done.
Right.
So it'll be youth soccer and youth lacrosse and all the other things. So if you guys have connections in that way, that'd probably be a really great.
And Julian, I think she might have also meant like for future budget,
Oh.
not schedule sporting events that night, if we can work with,
Yeah.
we work with public high schools and all that.
People are passionate about the sport.
But I think even with.
That's Section 2 does that,
I was
right?
gonna say Section 2 does a lot of the scheduling where
Yeah,
it's not always in like
really-
our control to say like, I don't want a game this night.
But I think the time of the vote matters too, going to 9 or
I agree with that, 100%.
8 o'clock is tough.
Right, baseball goes 6 to 8. Those are AAA and majors games,
Yeah.
6 to 8. And
Well, we can definitely go till 9 next year. Yes, sir.
You guys leaning towards one way or the other, putting the same budget out or putting?
We're definitely putting out, I say definitely, I think we're strongly leaning towards going out at the cap, which would require only 50% of the vote, +1.
But with the updated funding numbers from the state and some other unexpected kind of improvements, that full list that we were looking at may not be the list that we have to move forward with.
Right, because we don't want to seem like we are being disingenuous, saying, oh, if you don't pass the budget, these are the things on the chopping block. They're still the things on the chopping block. We didn't use that as like, ooh, we're gonna scare you, you're gonna lose your programs, and now we're going back on that. That's not the case. There's a change in things, and we want to help preserve as much as we can.
The state was coming out with.
Yeah, we did receive a little bit more funds from the state because we have updated poverty numbers and our poverty increased a little bit. So that was what the additional.
That's due to the late state budget. That's why we didn't have numbers until after our budget was already out.
I think people thought it was going to pass. I'll be honest.
I think so.
Yeah.
My husband definitely was like, why are you worried? It's going to pass. And I know a lot of people didn't come because they were like, it's going to pass. And now, just in my friend group text and stuff, they're like, why are we going to do a revote? Are we doing this? So I do think you're going to get more people, but I am worried that those other people that were 100% are going to come out even.
No, they will.
They're
gonna get
They come every year.
So
Yeah.
it has to be.
Please do not walk out of this room thinking that a vote at tax cap is easy to pass. It will not be this time around. But I will say this, if everyone actually comes out and votes and we pass it with 70%, that also gives us faith that with education, motivation, et cetera, well, maybe we do consider another vote at some point that restores students. So again, this vote becomes super critical.
So when we look back at the last 10 years votes, typically between 32 to 37% come out as an absolute no. One year we were at 1.99 and 60.3% pass rate.
Those are our lowest, right?
It was
It's apathy. It's apathy.
So
But that was apathy. People think somebody else is going to come and take care of it.
the same group comes up.
You are the someone else.
Remind me again, when does the work on the field start?
Soon. May have been today.
They brought the stuff today.
Yeah, the equipment starts today.
Okay. I want to take a picture of all the kids standing on that to say that we're going to have this beautiful new field and no sports to play on it. Please vote yes in our budget rules. Because
does remind me, like, a couple things, like, please reach out to us, because there's things that are said that are not true. So like, someone will say, well, the last capital project included money for the roofs and they're still leaking, and why is that? And
The roofs,
ran-
water,
right.
the.
we ran out of money in that capital project. We
Yeah.
had no money to finish off that job. That's the answer to that one.
It's done in different years.
Right.
So we went chronologically.
My favorite though, and I need to say this one, there's so many posts and comments about, well, the teachers get paid so much money and they're all living a glamorous life and all those. First of all, no, they're not paid more. 2, we don't set those amounts even if we did. 3, they deserve a lot more than what they're getting paid. 4, our teachers take on more sections than like they're at any other district, right? I think every other district is 5 sections and we have teachers take on 6.
We also don't get to fire them. We can't be like, you get paid way too much, you're fired, you're cut. That's not how it works.
So our position is their jobs are absolutely critical. They deserve to get paid more, but we don't get to decide any of that. And they sure as hell aren't paid more than.
Not even close.
We can't hire because we don't pay enough sometimes to attract those people. The teachers in this room are not here because they're making tons of money. They're here because they love this community. I don't mean to speak for you, but I think that's true. I don't know why I'm looking at just you, Laura.
It's all right. I love him so much. Without any preparation, I promise you all.
So I have a question about that. So with losing a pre-K classroom, if that is the case or what happens, what will happen to that other pre-K teacher and assistant teacher? Like, will they have another room to be in or?
Great question.
Yes.
Okay.
So right now, if we were to go down a pre-K teacher, that person would slide into a different classroom. We just happen to have a vacancy in special education. The lowest senior person actually has a certification in that area, so they can go into that special education class. So we just happen to be fortunate in that particular scenario that no one would lose a position in that particular scenario.
Just to be clear, when we talk about losing a pre-K classroom, we're talking about someone's job.
Right.
Like that's what the REACH program, it's not the REACH program, it's a person. Like all these things
So
are
is our
people.
guidance counselor.
Yes.
So I
all
just want
that
to make
is
sure that
people.
that is still on the table too. Like, we know our SRO will have a job. We feel strongly, we will be writing letters, we will be talking to Wren County. It is an election year. We will do whatever we can to figure out a way to pay for that.
SRO isn't a job. The kickball program isn't a job.
Right, we know
Huddle
Huddle is not a-
software is
right,
not a job. Those are not people tied to those things.
Right.
So then I guess, and I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, I'm just trying to understand like the funding then. Like what is the funding savings of cutting that pre-K classroom if we're still keeping the teacher and the assistant?
Because there was another position.
There was
So-
another position
so-
open.
So you understand too, if we cut a pre-K classroom, it doesn't necessarily cut that teacher. Because of the union contract, we go to the least senior teacher with that same certification, and that person would lose their job. And then that other teacher who maybe has more seniority would slide into another spot.
That was already vacant, that we would have to hire an outside person to fill.
But if it wasn't vacant,
Correct.
Then a person
it would be a
had-
person losing their job.
And it would be more than $16,000.
Correct.
But we're potentially trying to save that pre-K classroom is what I'm understanding.
Yes.
Yes.
Under
feel
discussion.
yes.
I think that's fair.
It's under discussion. No, everything's under discussion.
I just want to say thank you for seriously considering saving the UP Playcast.
Yeah.
My son didn't get in, which was devastating and heartbreaking. But even being a mom aside, I'm also an OT. I work in schools, but I also do early intervention. And as an EI provider, like my job is to do the foundation skills, right, to help them. But I always tell my parents, the real magic happens in the preschool. That's when it just all comes together at the preschool. And typical kids, not typical kids, it doesn't matter. It's the same. And just to not give all of them that opportunity, it just seems we're not doing them justice.
I mean, none of that is equitable because when you go into other bigger districts where every single kid in the entire district, it doesn't matter if they have 100 kids who enroll in UPK or 400 kids who enroll in UPK, they all get to go. It's not equitable even between our own, between districts, let alone within our district. It stinks.
and the whole system of it. It's the lottery, and, you know, right now we have, what, 46? We have the 3 classrooms, but at any, 48, thank you. So, but at any given time, if we have 60 kids that enroll, we're still only able to take you know what I mean?
Even if
Like,
we add this one back, we're still over numbers for next year. There are still going to be kids who don't get to go.
so,
20 in class instead
No,
of
because
No.
that would actually put us over state required ratios.
Yep.
We
So
have to add
it's-
additional staff in your class.
it's very, everything, trust, we tried to make it work.
We ask all these questions.
Yeah,
We did.
And then they tell us no.
right.
And not because they're saying no, because they're like, oh, they're
They
just
know the
saying,
rules.
that's against the law. So
Yeah, Ryan, the other thing I'll mention too, I was whispering to Jack, was that one of the things that we had explored a little bit was to see if we could put certain things like the SRO on a separate line, like a separate proposition. The attorney said no. So that was one of the, like, we were trying to explore any type of way to give people the maximum amount of voice. So.
I think Steve McLaughlin, that's a good avenue. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah,
I believe in Steve.
he gave the city of Troy a lot of money.
I know.
Let's
Yep.
get buttons made.
And, you know, I just, you know, I feel like he would.
The letters from the kids would hit Steve right here.
SRO, law and order, all that good stuff. You know, he might be able to help. He says that's what he's there for.
Kelly, could you get some kids to write like "We believe in Steve" on their little pictures?
If we can verify
With the-
that
with-
it's okay to,
with our-
you know,
with
have
Benny
it,
the Bangle.
whatever, we'll
And
bring
bring
that
in
tiger.
yours.
Come take a picture with Benny Bang, right? I mean, he's
That'll be
for
the best.
SRO.
invite him
right?
in and then we'll just get him.
I think, Steve, I need to have a meeting with you and just bombard him with all the adorable kids. Like, who says no?
And then get some newscaster.
What would be happening, would anything be happening to TLC? Okay.
If we went to a contingency, clubs would likely not happen anymore.
Wait,
All the fun would be gone.
they
Go ahead.
contingency budget.
Yeah, I have a question. So the only way we're keeping the SRO is if you go at the full budget, correct?
That would be correct,
Correct.
unless we find other money for them.
Okay, so so for our kids to have like a sense of security, it's like, it's a number. Because I drive by here, the doors are open, the side doors are open, my kids say there are kids wandering around hallways, they don't feel safe here. So having him here, they feel safe.
Yeah, I agree.
So you gotta do something. Because they feel like we're gonna be a target if we don't have one.
Can I ask, like, what, is there, I know we have a state troopers barracks, I mean, right up the hill, like, are they part of any kind of emergency plan?
Yeah.
I would imagine. Well, that's, you know, good to hear at least.
So one of the, just so we're all clear, one of the biggest holdups on the SRO or getting them in this revised budget somehow is that we would have to sign a 3-year contract as opposed to just a 1-year contract. So that's one of the holdups.
I think it's a part of it, yeah.
That's big money too.
The money is the biggest holdup.
Because if you said just over, like this, let's pretend it wasn't SRO, but it was some one-time cost that was $114,000. And we said, all right, it's a one-time cost, we'll pay it out of that reserve,
Right.
we're good to go. That's a very different conversation than a 3-year contract with who knows what's ahead of us.
Right,
Like,
because it started
Because our
at,
cost
it
is
started
less.
at 90.
Right.
yeah, so it's gone up that
So
much.
it's gone
in
up that much
2
in,
years.
I can guarantee you
3
years.
years.
Right.
But trust us when we say the optics of removing an SRO and God forbid something happens is something that is a major emotional struggle.
Exactly.
It's something that
I think
is
also.
going to be discussed, but it's that balance of got to make sure the district actually can run, got to make sure the district is safe, got to make sure it's someplace that you would want to be at, but not getting in a situation. If we go to contingency for any reason, like that's that's wrecking the district. That's lost jobs because it's the only place that you can make up that 535. There, I got it right. Is going to be jobs. And that means larger class sizes. It means a poor education because it's proven that smaller class sizes are better. It's just really, really bad. So regardless of what this decision is eventually and what you vote on, we gotta pass it. 100% have to pass it. We cannot afford not to pass it.
I think the message needs to be very, very clear to people. This is what we lose. And I know that I heard that message because I made sure I wanted to hear that message. I know I've shared that message as much as I possibly could. But I think there are still so many people that do not know that message. So whether it's a graphic, with kids not playing sports or, I hate to use the term pulling at people's heartstrings, but people need to know like this is what is going to happen. Like, this is what you are doing to our children. This is not on you guys. I get it. I understand the position that you are in. But I mean, that's the scariest thing ever.
I saw you sharing the message, and even with that, people were still like arguing with you about it. Like, they're never going to lose their SRO.
I'll argue with people.
Surprise, here we are.
Yeah, I think the most transparent is the best. If you specify exactly, it's one UPK classroom, it's a halftime music position. Because, it's been kind of vague when it says we're gonna cut music. These kids don't have a clue. This one was thinking it was gonna be the middle school choir and things like that. It needs to be very specific. It's just a halftime position from the music teacher, and it's gonna be, because otherwise, you're saying all the sports. So, I mean, is it literally every single sport, or is there gonna happen to be a volleyball team? Like, you need to say exactly what it is, so that way they know.
And
truthfully, exactly what it is.
Angeline, the BOE letter that we sent out,
Yes.
that did have the listing of the things that were getting cut, right? Yeah, it's hard, like we need, like, if you guys see something like, oh, this is really interesting.
That was not on Facebook.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was, and it got emailed to every parent.
Because I know that in those things, there were people that couldn't find the information.
The problem is this is the problem with this year. And of course, like, everyone is going to be way more hypersensitive next year, right? You get home, you've just worked all day, you've been to practice, you've got kids, you've got dinner, you've got laundry, maybe your faucet's not running right, your washing machine's broke. You pick up your mail, you looked at okay, yep, I got to vote. It's just more noise that is being filtered into your day, right? So that's the part that, as just everyday life, we're just trying to just get through our days, right? And now we're in crucial crunch time, and you guys, are being honest and open with us here. But I can't stress enough to you that no matter what we mail out, no matter what we send home with the kids, this is a piece of paper and they're just words, okay? When you're having a conversation, there's emotion, there's a connection. That's why, like, we all grew up without these in our hands, right? And we can make good eye contact and we have, a little bit more empathy and everything. I'm not going into all of that, but I'm just saying, like, there is something to be said about in-person meetings. You guys felt strong enough tonight to not only write emails, but you came in person. Why did you come in person? Because being in person, being face-to-face, having your voices be heard and your expressions be seen, that is a statement. And that is how we are going to get people to come out and vote, is when you make a connection with your neighbor. Go knock on their door when you're walking around the neighborhood, you're walking your dog. Hey, are you planning on voting, for the next vote? Because it's really crucial. This is what's at stake. So that, you're at Stewart's or Dunkin' Donuts or wherever you are in the community. Hey, are you voting? Are you voting? Are you voting? I mean, everybody's so quick to say, oh, did you hear Norm from Cheers died? How many times did you hear that? But how many discussions did you have with your friends about the school budget? So that's like, we have to learn from our mistakes, right? And this was an epic mistake and we're all, gonna be working on, there's a whole laundry list of things that as a board, we're trying to implement and do and change and move forward, because you stay stagnant if you don't learn from your mistakes. And this is a big mistake that we all have to learn from, not just us as a board and not just what the 9 of us can, and Angelina and Stephanie can do different, but us as a community, we all have to be in this. Like, it takes a village, it's gonna take a community and a village to pass a budget. So that's, I just really wanna emphasize that. We really appreciate you guys coming. We want people at our meetings. We love when people come to our meetings. People are there, we're like, oh, people are here. This is exciting. So, because maybe, there's been a lot of changes. I mean, we got the free lunches, or what was the big change that one of the students brought up that we were able to implement? It was the free lunches.
That
sparked. It sparked a little bit more of a conversation, like.
We pushed it again.
The turf field is because kids came to a meeting.
Right. So we do listen, and it's frustrating for us because we can't really have a big interaction like we're having tonight at the meetings. I think as a district, we do allow a lot more of an interaction. I've been to other districts that there is it's, okay, thanks for coming, and they don't even look at you, and I think, Mr. President Roddy does a really good job. Angelina, if we can answer a question, we answer it. So, and if we can't, we take it into discussion and we do listen. So you are heard, so please come to, more meetings.
I have a random question. So when Jack leaves the board, who's gonna be the new president?
Whoa.
The board,
One problem at a time.
the board decides that every July at a reorganization meeting. They decide that amongst themselves.
Okay,
And that is also a public meeting.
okay.
One problem at a time. Like, I can only handle so much.
All right, if nobody else has questions, I guess I'm going to thank you all very much for coming. I hope you can come again next Thursday.
So we're gonna do.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm just kidding.
Did you say?
No.
He recommended, but it's not illegal.
Everybody to be.
No, this ended up working out perfect.
It did, and I just wanted
Yeah.
to see if they-
Yes.